a hamstring. Up, sniper, take the other picture.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you can formulate opinions without having true facts.
I'm telling you, think about it logically for just a second.
Dear Reds fans.
Welcome back to the Zebra Zillionaires. It was a tough one yesterday.
Live from Chatterbox Sports Studios, it's Off the Bench with Thom Brennaman.
Good morning, and a happy Wednesday. Good morning to each and every one of you. Welcome, as always, to Off the Bench, presented by our friends at United Dairy Farmers. I'm Thom Brennaman with a cast of thousands, a quartet. The band is back together again. Casey, Trace, welcome back from Chicago.
Tom.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate that.
Well, I mean, you brought the same energy that Elliot brought yesterday. Speaking of, is your energy any better today, Elliot?
Yeah, my energy.
Reed, good morning.
I got high energy today, Tom. Very high energy.
Morning, Tom. I'm happy as you. I mean,
you know what? You are. You always show up.
Yes.
You remind me of a lot of my old broadcast partner, Mark Grace, former great Cubby.
Yeah, both great baseball
Guy showed
players,
up
right?
every day, great mood, fired up, excited.
Listen.
You know, these other three, it's a hit or miss deal.
Listen, luckily for me, I had all the tough stuff in life when I was younger, so it's just happy now. I just get to be happy for the rest of my life. So it's
I
good.
need to be more like you.
Hey, just get to survive every day.
Amen. Amen.
Get to hang out with the
that's
Thom
right.
Brennaman.
We come your way 10
Hey.
to 12.
P.
And you can
I
find
thought
us
we-
on YouTube /Chatterbox Sports if you'd rather join us in podcast form. Hey, we're everywhere. Wherever you get your podcast. Just search Off the Bench with Thom Brennaman and you're dialed in. Day off yesterday for the Bengalis. They're back at it today downtown, getting ready for Sunday's clash with 3-1 Seattle. Bengals at 2-3, coming off perhaps a season-saving win in Arizona. That game is at 1 o'clock at Paycor Stadium. Big-time game. Bengals trying to get to 500 before the bye. Now, look, whether you're a tennis fan or not, right? Tennis has some fans, and they have some people that are like, nah, okay? But Greater Cincinnati got great news yesterday that the Western Southern Open, and they're going to change the name of the tournament, but the point is it's not going anywhere. There was fear that the tournament could be moving to Charlotte, but apparently those that own the tournament, specifically a billionaire from South Carolina who wanted to move it to Charlotte, were so overwhelmed with the event here last summer, so impressed, that they decided to not go anywhere. It's a 25-year deal. And congratulations, you know, I badmouth government all the time around here, but this clearly was a partnership that worked. Warren County, Mr. Young got things rolling there, along with some big-time Fortune 5 companies that are based in Greater Cincinnati. They made this thing happen. Job well done. Congratulations. All right, on to baseball. The Texas Rangers wasted no time dispatching Trace's Baltimore Orioles in the division series, sweeping it 3-0. Nathan Eovaldi goes 7 smooth innings. I mean, nothing. In a 7-1 win last night in Arlington, that place was rocking. So the Orioles, whoever bought into the Orioles, I don't know. I don't think anybody did. They won 101 games during the regular season. They were the only team in baseball this year, the only team in baseball to not get swept in a series. They picked a good time to change that. Really good time. Rangers manager Bruce Bochy won his 15th postseason series. That is third most all time behind Joe Torre's 19 and Tony La Russa 16. In Minnesota, the Astros jumped all over former Red Sonny Gray. A 4-run first inning. Astros got 5 innings of one-hit shutout baseball from their postseason guy, man, Christian Javier. 9-1 shellacking of the Twins. Houston leads that series 2-1. Can wrap it up tonight at 7 o'clock. That game can be seen on FS1. In the National League, the Braves and Phillies tied at 1 game apiece. Game 3 tonight. Needless to say, this is a monster game tonight. And the Phillies have the guy they want on the mound. He didn't have necessarily a great year this year, Aaron Nola. But his last 3 starts, he looks like the Phillies' ace. Atlanta has not announced a starter for Game 3. That starts at 5 o'clock. You can watch it on TBS. a 3-game sweep. That's what the Arizona Diamondbacks are thinking. They get that chance tonight in front of 50,000 plus in Phoenix. After beating LA 2 straight in LA, the D-backs and Dodgers tee it up at 9. TBS has that game. And sad news, gymnast Mary Lou Retton. Now, for some of our younger crowd, you may not remember her. For those of us 40 or older, you remember her well. She captured the attention of America and the world, was on the cover of a Wheaties box, winning gold medals in the 1984 Summer Olympics. She is fighting for her life in a Texas hospital. The 55-year-old has a rare form of pneumonia. Our prayers are certainly with her and her family. All right, boys. Back at it for the first time in a while. And that means a Hall of Famer is back.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's back. And he comes out roaring. He's got the Reds. I don't know if that's a light behind you there, Dad, that's supposed to be on, the Reds thing. That looks kind of new. Maybe I'm wrong. You got
You're wrong.
All right, you got the faded out Reds pink pullover thing going. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you for asking. It's nice to be back with you and all the boys, and it's like all home week again.
Well, you know, we've had a change sort of in the band here now because, you know, Paul quit.
Quitter. Yeah.
Right? That's his nickname, Quitter. He's moved on to Xavier. So we have Casey is still around, Trace Fowler, Reed Mouse, and you have
Hey,
Elliot,
Reed.
a.k.a. the Z-Brazilianaire.
Reed and Elliot.
How you doing, Mr. Brennaman?
How's it going, Marty?
I lost your sound there. What
Yeah.
happened?
How you doing, guys?
We're good. How are
We're
you?
good. It's nice seeing you, Marty. It's been a long time.
Faces this early in the morning.
Yes, everybody's very excited to see you and welcome back. Look, let's start with the baseball playoffs.
Okay.
You know, I heard a bunch of people on national shows talking the last day or two as these higher seeded teams who did not play in the wild card round are getting their tails kicked on a nightly basis by and large. Atlanta, the only one that's not, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to figure out, now all of a sudden everybody's saying, oh, this format stinks. How do you feel about this whole thing?
Well, you know, Ken Rosenthal wrote a piece for The Athletic on Monday about it. And I think his bone of contention, and maybe there's some authenticity and truth to it, is the fact that, you know, the two teams that won their divisions with the best records are the teams that have what could be a 5-day sit down until they are able to play, and how that could be ruinous to a team's momentum and rustiness sets in, et cetera, et cetera. I'll give him some plausibility as far as that position is concerned. But I get so damn upset that every time something doesn't go the way baseball thinks it should go, then we have to step in and make changes. And, you know, it's almost as if there's a conspiracy that they want the best teams as far as their records are concerned over the course of a 6.5, 7-month season to automatically be in the World Series. And I disagree with that. Let's let this current format play out over the next 2 or 3 years and then draw some conclusions. But just because Baltimore, which I think was very overrated to begin with, got their butts kicked, and there's a chance that, you know, some other teams could also fall by the wayside, the Dodgers. I don't see any reason with tampering this thing right now, trying to figure out another system that's going to be more in keeping with the way the powers that be think. I say the hell with the powers that be. If some low-life team catches, I can go back to the early part of this century when the St. Louis Cardinals were essentially a 500 team that snuck into the postseason, ended up winning the World Series in 2003 or 2004, whatever it was. There's nothing wrong with that. So this crap about tweaking the format because it's not going the way they think it should go, I'd say, you know, forget that. Just let it play out. And then when you've got enough years to make some kind of educated opinions or certainties based on the current situation, then maybe you rethink it, but not now.
You know, I think it would be fascinating to to have the Rangers and the Astros meet in the American League Championship Series because of everything that went on there with, the celebration thing. For those of you that aren't aware, last week you had Texas celebrating that they had gotten into the playoffs. They needed to win the next day to win the division. They did not. Houston won. Houston wins the division. There were some reporters that really angered Chris Young, the general manager of the Rangers, insinuating that the Rangers players were partying all night and all this kind of thing, and they weren't ready to show up and play and win a division the next day. I think that this Rangers team, to me, and I'll be the first to say, when they came in very early in the year, I had made the comment they did not impress me in the least bit, and they didn't. They didn't play well here at all, but that's baseball. Over a 6-month time frame, you're going to watch teams play. It's just like Baltimore. I would have said the same thing about them. I didn't think they looked any good at all against the Reds. And they didn't look good against the Reds. And they just got they got their asses kicked against Texas.
They sure did.
And so, you look at some of these teams, and that's the beauty kind of hand in hand with what you're talking about. But that would be the series I think most people would want to see outside of Minneapolis.
Well, on top of what you said, I think there's bad blood between those two teams to begin with. And I think that lends itself to a level of interest that would surpass a matchup involving either one of those teams and another ball club. I think it would be sensational for television ratings. I would be sensational for interest. So I agree with you. I think that would be some kind of series to pay attention to and watch, given the track records of the two teams and the histories that pertain to the two teams when they go head-to-head, without any question.
And, Dad, it goes hand in hand with what I was just talking about in watching, depending on when you watch a team, the old adage about it's not who you play, it's when you play them, right? So, okay, that leads into this whole Diamondbacks-Dodgers thing. If you didn't know what the Dodgers did during the regular season, again, winning over 100 games, and you just watched the first 2 games of this series, you would say to yourself, especially from a pitching standpoint, offensively, they've done nothing against Arizona. But from a pitching standpoint, you would say to yourself, are you kidding me? Kershaw lays an egg in game 1. The Miller kid throws 8,000 miles an hour, but has no idea where it's going. He doesn't even last 2 innings in the game. So, it just goes to show you about when you play them, not who you play, because the Dodgers are beat up in their rotation. Hi, Millie.
Well, I think go ahead.
No, I just said hi, Millie.
I think
that's all.
Oh, yeah, Millie's running around because Amanda's got to take her to get groomed, and it's like somebody slit her throat when she's got to get in the car and go get groomed. So she's running.
Groomed? Are you getting groomed? Does she take you to get groomed?
Who, Millie? Amanda?
No, does Amanda take you to get groomed?
No. I groom myself, but Millie hates it, and so she's down here thinking I'm going to protect her from Amanda picking her up and putting her in the car seat and taking her. So she's down here with me. It's the only time she runs to me is when Amanda's taking her to get groomed. Yeah, the rest of now, Amanda's down here trying to wave her on, and she has no interest whatsoever. In fact, she started to shake already. She's shaking.
Sorry, guys.
Okay, guys. Yeah, but I think you got to cut the Dodgers some slack, Tom, because their pitching is beat up, and I think it's unfortunate that a team that has so much talent goes into a series handcuffed because they have key people in their rotation who have proven their merit over the course of 1 or 2 or 3 seasons are unavailable. And Dave Roberts has got to make do with what he's got. I agree with the Miller kid has a great arm. Great arm doesn't mean a damn thing if you can't locate the ball where you want to locate it. And he had that problem. I'm not so sure that Zach Gallen might not be the best pitcher in the National League right now.
I agree 100%.
Boy, is he a stud. Golly day, and I'm so happy because, he's a part of the Tar Heel family, and God bless him for being the pitcher that he is coming out of Chapel Hill. So I think, Arizona may be one of those teams that I referenced earlier in talking about the Cardinals. You have a team that catches fire toward the end of the year, is relatively healthy, and all of a sudden that momentum just carries right on through the postseason, and they end up in the World Series, and with a little bit of extra luck, they may end up being world champions. That's a nice team. I mean, you got the Carroll kid, who's odds-on favorite to be the National League Rookie of the Year. It's a solid defensive ball club with a nice mix of young and veteran players like Longoria at third base. I like that team. And so it's going to be interesting now with the Dodgers showing their backs to the wall, and what's going to happen from here on out. But again, I feel bad for them because I'm a big Dave Roberts fan. I think Dave Roberts is one of the major assets in Major League Baseball. He's a class act. He gives an interview on TV during the middle of the game, and he acts like he enjoys doing it, as opposed to some of these guys that are on borderline rude when they're being interviewed. And I understand that's a pain in the rear end. Same time, I'm a fan of Dave Roberts. I hate to see him handcuffed like he is, but yeah, baseball is baseball. Sometimes you're lucky, sometimes you're not.
I'm drifting off where I want to go here for a second, but you brought up the manager thing. Did you read the article? And you alluded to The Athletic earlier, and I talk about it all the time. If you're a sports fan, and I'm not getting paid by these guys, I mean, it's not a lot
No, that's
of money,
right.
but everybody only has a certain amount of money that they can budget and spend for different things. And so, you never lose sight of that. But if you're a hardcore sports fan and you got a few extra bucks, that is without a doubt the place to have a subscription. Did you read the article that was written about baseball managers and how they are paid in relation to NFL coaches and college football coaches? There are 25 Division I college football coaches, 25 of them that are paid more than the highest paid manager in Major League Baseball. And there are something like 60 coaches in college football that make more money than the average salary of a Major League manager. All of this has basically transpired because of sabermetrics. How much of an impact do you believe a manager really has? Because some say it has no impact.
I think some managers have more than others. For instance, Dusty Baker has fought like a dog against analytics, overcoming his personal ability to put a lineup together that is going to be the best he can put on the field on a given night against a particular pitcher. He has fought against it from day number one, and so far he's won because they have acquiesced to him because of the experience that he's had, the success he's had in the past. But I think I've been told there's some managers that they have no control over the lineup that they play on a given night, that lineup is sent down to him at 2:30 in the afternoon for a 7:15 game or whatever. And this is the lineup based on your analytic geeks that they feel is best suited to go out and win on a particular night against a given pitcher. As I said, I think there's some that have more power than others, but I also think that we are seeing slowly a pendulum begin to move back a bit toward the middle. Because there have been I'm trying to remember which club is laying the blame. I think it's the Yankees, where their analytical department failed miserably over the course of the 2023 season. And so all of a sudden now massive changes are going to be made. And I think that's the first chink in the armor. If you're going to go to something as radical as analytics, you better damn sure make sure that you can get it done, and your decisions, if you're an analytic geek, prove to be accurate. And I think over time we're going to see things change a little bit. And I think they should be changed because I think there's been too much emphasis placed on analytics and not enough on gut reactions of guys who have made a career out of being successful major league managers. And I think there are a whole bunch of them. So, we'll see what happens. I know you talked about the salary article. I think they said Brian Schnitker made $1.2 million.
Yeah.
Now, here's a guy that's had great success, and he is a, quote, baseball man from the word go.
Yep.
Going all the way back to the beginning of time. And there are a lot of guys like that. I think Buck Showalter's like that. He's lost his job. I know he has interest now in the Angels job. I think Joe Madden will be back in the business one day soon. I think he's a baseball man. I just think too much emphasis has been placed on analytics, some of which I think is very good and very pertinent to a team's success on the field. Some of it I think is a bunch of crap. And as long as we have these baseball analytic geeks around to try and overshadow everything there is about this great game of baseball, we're going to have a problem.
The Reds. Look, everybody thought, I think their over-under in Vegas for wins this year was 64, 65, something in that neighborhood. Clearly, they boat race that number. They bring up all these young players, and there is unbelievable optimism for the future and all of these young guys. But they do have to make some decisions. If you're sitting in Nick Krall's seat and you know what you know, a lot of pitchers threw more innings than they have in the past. A lot of pitchers are breaking down. You haven't seen a full season of staying healthy from Hunter Green, from Nick Lodolo, from Graham Ashcraft. None of those three has pitched a full season in the big leagues because of injury. And God bless them, you pray they're never hurt again. But it does, I think it's alarming when young guys are hurt all the time. I think it is. Maybe I'm wrong. And you can say, well, the Ashcraft thing is a freak thing. Fine. The Lodolo thing's a freak thing. Fine. Not going to argue about it. But if you're Nick Krall and you're looking at this team, let's start with the pitching. What are you going to do this offseason to put yourself in a spot to contend for the Central Division title?
Well, the first thing my first priority will be, and I've said this for a month. In fact, I go back to opening day when their rotation was 5 young, relatively inexperienced guys. And I said then it's going to be awfully hard with no veteran presence in that rotation for this club to sustain any kind of continuity that would take them into a possible postseason. Of course, I didn't think they could get there. I said on opening day, and somebody played it back on Twitter at the end of July, when I was asked what the team record would be, and I said it would be 66 and 66 and 94, whatever that doesn't add up, but 68 and 94 is a record I said they'd have on opening day. Obviously, I was dead wrong. They go 82 and 80. I think my priority would be, if I'm Nick Krall, one priority. Number one, this is not where I would stop. I go out and I sign or trade for a veteran major league pitcher who's been around the block, who has had a measure of success with one or more big league ball clubs, is healthy, and equally as important to all of that is a guy who has tremendous positive influence on young pitchers in the clubhouse. And I used as an example Tom Seaver when he came from the Mets in 1979. It was an incredible influence on people like Frank Pastore and Paul Moscow and Tommy Hume and some of these guys. Bronson Arroyo did the same thing in the last 10, 12 years. Great influence in the clubhouse. You've got to have a veteran pitcher in the middle or at the top of your rotation to take some of the pressure and to teach these young guys about things that'll make them even better down the road. That would be priority one. The other thing would be to look seriously, and I don't know where you'd play him, but I think it's necessary to come up with a left-handed bat that has some pop, because most of these guys are right-hand hitters, and I think you're overloaded from that side of the plate. You got to improve your bullpen. That's the area that costs less money than any other area on your club to improve. But I am so damn tired of watching this club go out. Hey, we just signed Joe Smith to a minor league contract with an invitation to the big league camp. He's only pitched for 7 different ball clubs and has an under 500 record, but we think this guy can help us. I'm tired of seeing that. Go out and sign some guys that have pitched well in bullpens around the Major League Baseball, because, like I said, compared to some of the other areas, it's not going to cost you as much money. And I'm not saying revamp your bullpen, because I think you've got some guys down there that did a good job this year, and they should be rewarded for that. So basically, I think that's what they've got to do. Obviously, the biggest single decision is going to be what they're going to do with Joey Votto.
Well, what are they going to do with Joey Votto? What are they going to?
Well,
what should
I don't
they
know.
do with him?
If I'm the Reds, if I'm Joey Votto, now I'm putting myself in his position.
Okay.
I walk into Nick Kroll's office and I say, you know, that $20 million that you guys have on me, if you decide to bring me back, tear that up. Throw that away. You owe me $7 million anyway, because if I leave, we part company, you got to pay me $7 million. I'll come back here for X amount of money on top of that $7 million. So it all depends upon if that figure is the type of thing that would interest the team. I think this club would be making a serious mistake, and that is bring him back and pay him $20 million in 2024. And I think Joey Votto will be a Hall of Famer one day, not taking anything away from what he did. But at the same time, you have a kid in Encarnacion Strand, for me, that has to play 140 games minimum next year if he stays healthy at first base. And I think if he does that, he's going to hit 35 home runs like falling out of bed. He's going to be a run producer. He's got to play. So either way you do it, if you bring Joey Votto back, he has to come back with the understanding that he's not going to play as much as he probably would like to, because you've got to give these kids a chance to play on a regular basis. You can't sit somebody down for a 40-year-old guy who is probably in his last year as a major league player anyway. And so I think $20 million, I think, is just throwing money down the drain. I really do. And if you do it because of what he's meant to this organization, that ain't the way to do business. That's not the proper way to do business. Everybody respects the fact that he has been one of the truly great players in the history of this franchise. But to just arbitrarily say, you know what, as a reward for your years of service, we're going to pick up the $20 million option, I think that's bad business.
You know, the part of that whole equation is, of course, or a part of it, is, you know, Votto still believes, and the Dan Patrick show he was on last week, he's been injured the last 2 years. There's no doubt about that. He was injured 2 years ago. He has the 2 surgeries. I'm not sure he was ever healthy at 100% this year, if at all, right? And the numbers reflect it. I mean, you know, you take away really about a 4-game stretch here, about a 5-game stretch there, and he's about a 180 hitter, because he hit 200 even with those good stretches in there. So, look, I'm not bad-mouthing the guy in any form or fashion. I believe he was hurt.
No.
But he feels like that he will be healthy and he will be a good player again and a highly productive player again. We always focus, and I do too, like you just mentioned, about the money. What are they going to pay him? What should they pay him? What should they not pay him? Et cetera, et cetera. But a big part of this equation is what he believes he still has left in the tank. So would it come down to a situation, and let's just pick Toronto, because that's the easy target, right? They got Brandon Belt down there that they paid $9 million last year. Belt had a better season than people realize, and he's a lot younger than Votto. But if they wanted to replace Belt with Votto, bring him back to his hometown, they pay him whatever they pay him, and Votto says, well, okay, if the money's the same, do I go somewhere where I play more, or do I stay here where I play less, but it's where I want to be?
Well, I mean, that's a decision he has to make. Yeah. But I go back. I don't. If I'm owning this franchise, and or I'm the general manager, and I have autonomy in making a decision, I don't have interference from the ownership group as to whether or not I'm going to keep a player or trade a player or release a player, whatever the case might be. I go back to what I said a moment ago. It would be immaterial to me what a player thinks he's still capable of. I'm going to operate based on what I see and what I think, and take everything into consideration: the age of the player, the health of the player, what he did in 2023. Then it's going to be my decision. I'm not going to be talked in to bringing him back or anybody else back based on what that player tells me he thinks he can do. I don't operate that way. And I don't think any good operation in Major League Baseball is going to say, we're going to reward you because you've been a tremendous asset, and he has, to this ball club, and we're going to just give you $20 million and hopefully things work out next season and you get as much playing time as you want. For me, the only way he's going to get the kind of playing time that I would assume he thinks he should get is if Encarnacion Strand doesn't cut it. And now you got to turn to Joey Votto in hopes that he can do what he says he thinks he can do if he's healthy. So I think there are a lot of things, a lot of factors to be considered. But at the same time, I go back to the first thing I said. There's no way on God's earth that I just arbitrarily say, okay, we're going to pick up the $20 million and bring you back for 2024. I'd have a hard time doing that.
All right, gentlemen, the floor is yours. Zebra, Elliot, anything for the Hall of Famer?
Yes.
Dad, whatever you do, if he gives you any betting tips, bet the other way. He has gone south like nobody on God's earth.
Marty,
Are we talking about Elliot?
Yes, I mean straight south.
Okay.
Marty, that was slanderous. I'm a great gambler. Don't check the records on that, though. Okay, so I love Ian Jabot. Ian Jabot is my favorite pitcher. Now,
why are you saying that? You badmouth this guy all year long.
Marty agrees with me. We both like him.
You badmouthed him.
I didn't badmouth anybody.
You killed him.
I badmouthed nobody. Did I believe in him all the way through the whole last year? No.
You said
I had
he
my
was
doubts.
going to pitch for England in the World
He did. He did pitch for England. He's a Brit. Hello, governor. That's what he is. He's hello, fish and chips. That's what he is. Now, Marty, I have a question for you. The bullpen, yes, they pitched phenomenally this year. I still have my doubts. Alexis Diaz fell off at the end. Ian Jabot, I love him, but it seems like when there's a runner on base, he kind of tightens up and he gets scared and he gives up home runs left and right. Do you think the Reds need to address the bullpen at all this offseason?
Were you listening to what I said?
Well,
did you go out? You go to the bathroom while I was talking?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't.
I said they needed to improve their bullpen. I said that. And I said that it's least expensive area that you have where you can improve it and not really spend a whole lot of money. Now, I agree with you 100% about Jabot, and you talked about how he seemed to slack off and Diaz. I think those guys were out of gas. I really, truly believe that when September came, their best days were so far behind them because they were worn out. And I think a big challenge for David Bell and Johnson, the pitching coach, is they have got to demand more innings out of their starting pitchers because and we've seen enough of it now over the years in which David Bell has managed his club, going to 3, 4, 5 relief pitchers 3 or 4 times a week. It doesn't work. And the only way you can improve that and sustain some measure of effectiveness from these guys over a full season coming out of the bullpen is to get more innings out of your starting pitching. And I think there are no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You've got to sit down with these guys and say, hey, fellas, we got to figure out a way to work this because we got to get more innings out of you guys in 2024 than we did this past year. I like Jabot. I think he was tired at the end. I love Diaz. I think he was tired. It's just like every Lucas Sims and the whole bunch of them. There are guys in that bullpen that need replacing, but I think that there's a core that you keep, and then you go out and try to improve upon the other areas in that bullpen to really give them a gang-bang bullpen for next year, but you still have to get more innings out of your starters.
That makes a lot of sense. It would have been great if I listened the first time, but the reiteration of that point was very important. I'm glad I still stand with my question. I'm glad I asked it.
I wouldn't be glad I asked it. You're really lucky because nobody has been lit up over 60 years more than I have by him, and he just gave you kid glove treatment.
Well, thank you, Mr. Hall of Famer. Thank you.
Reed, anything from you, big boy? Reed is a big Cubby fan, Dad. He suffered in great pain during the Cubbies' epic collapse this year. Reed, the floor is yours.
Right.
Yeah, Marty, I'm a Cubs fan. I know you love Cubs fans, so I'll ask this question.
They love me too. Reed.
Well, I love you, Marty. I grew up here, so I grew up listening.
Thank you.
But, you mentioned that the starters need to go longer, and you said that they need to improve the bullpen. Do you think it is likely that the Reds will or they should go after a veteran arm to, kind of help those young starters? They have plenty of very talented arms.
Oh, my God.
This
Here we
is
go
a bit.
again.
Don't fall for this,
Oh,
Marty.
my God. Let's move on.
Don't
Trace,
fall for that.
Trace,
Marty.
I'm sorry,
Trace,
Marty. I had
Marty,
to.
that's a bit, Marty.
I had to back up my boy Elliott. I had to back up my boy Elliott.
God, he
So,
may never come on again thanks to you two.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm trying my best.
Trace.
Marty,
please.
let me actually help you
Good
out here.
Lord.
I
going
feel
south.
I feel like Marty made an excellent point at the very beginning of this program. For those that haven't been listening, which seems like half the room on the other side, he basically the prisoner of the moment theory right now with the MLB playoffs. To reiterate your point, the New York Mets made the World Series in 1973 with 82 wins in the regular season. The St. Louis Cardinals made the World Series and won the World Series in 2006 with 83 wins. And the Minnesota Twins in 1987 won the World Series with 85 wins. We're in a position in this country, and I would like to hear what your thoughts are on this, where it seems as if we love tournaments. That's what our culture has been built upon. We love March Madness. We love the NFL playoffs. We love the MLB postseason. And then obviously across the pond in Europe when they play soccer, and by soccer, Marty, I mean football over there. It's one of those things where would you rather have an MLB playoff system to where they shrink it all the way back up and they take the 4 best teams and then there's only 4 teams in the league that can make the postseason and everyone that is worthy has a chance to play in the World Series? Or do you prefer the nature of the beast now where you have 8, 9, 10 teams in each league that have a chance to make the postseason? Then obviously see what the Diamondbacks are able to do, and obviously the Rangers won 90 games, so that's a little bit of a side. But a team like the Diamondbacks where they sneak in and they have a chance to make the World Series, would you prefer that?
Grace, I like it the way it is because I think that I was 100% in favor of adding a third playoff team, a wild card team. I think it sustains interest in certain cities, given what their team may or may not be accomplishing that otherwise would not be there. And I think that's one of the goals that Major League Baseball has, and that is to sustain interest throughout the course of an entire season. So I don't have a problem with the way it is. I have a problem with there almost seems to be a conspiracy to make sure we got to figure out a way to make sure that the teams with the best records in each league are the teams that have a better chance than anybody else of getting to the World Series. I think one of the beauties of baseball, and you just reiterated it by talking about the Mets of '73 and the Cardinals of '06 and the Twins in whatever year they won it all. I think that is something that has a tremendous appeal, not only to the people in the city in which this team is making a, quote, miracle run, but to people all over baseball that loves to root for the underdog. And so I think the system is fine now. I have no problem with the system. I have a problem with those people who are automatically talking about, well, we got to tweak it again because it's not doing what we expected it to do. Just shut up and let them play.
Any advice for a guy that obviously has watched Joey Votto his whole career, but tries to objectively look at things from the standpoint as a fan of seeing whether or not you should make decisions or not make decisions based off of performance? Any advice for someone like myself who loves Joey Votto, but at the same time realizes that, first of all, that $20 million option that they have, the Reds will never even consider that in a million years. If anything, that they could convince me maybe, again, Joey Votto could come back for like what you were suggesting, maybe $9 million. You add $2 million to the 7, you come to 9. The issue that I have with that, and this is where I need some advice, I just don't think there's space on this roster anymore, Marty. There's also guys that are still in the minor leagues that still need to be protected by the 40-man. You add in the fact that somebody else might come up next season, a la Matt McClain or all these other guys that might have hit 240 or 250 in Double-A last season, but then they're ready to go. A guy by the name of Dunn comes to mind. I just think that we are in a position as Reds fans, and I say fans, to where it's hard for me to sit here and argue that we shouldn't keep Joey around, but then I'm called a hater because I don't like Joey Votto. But then on the opposite side, you watch him play all year, Marty, and I don't know if your eyes tell you differently, but my eyes tell me that he's just a guy that unfortunately his old father time has caught up with him, and it's a position now where the Reds have to make the hardest decision maybe they've made in a little while, and they're just going to have to let him walk. What would you do, or how do you go about walking that tight line as a Reds fan?
Well, I think, we're talking about a unique situation here because in all the years I've been associated with this club, the only player that I think evoked the kind of passion that the fans that follow Votto have would probably go back to when the Reds and Pete parted company back in the late 70s, and he ended up going to Philadelphia and then to Montreal. People were up in arms about that because they love Pete Rose. That outfit, for different reasons, that was the relative infancy of free agency, and they were concerned about how much money they were going to pay him. But that was a pittance compared to what we're talking here now, about $20 million. I agree with everything you say, Trace, every single thing you say. You're talking about people who drink the Kool-Aid, the Joey Votto Kool-Aid, and they have no objectivity at all. If the Reds' option year for him was $45 million, they'd say pay it, because we're talking about Joey Votto here. We're not talking about some other player. I just think that at some point people have to be as objective as you are, and I think as objective as I am. And if they want to beat me up because I feel the way I feel about approaching this thing from a purely business perspective, then the hell with them. Because I think my thoughts are to the point where this club has money to spend, and I just think giving him $20 million is just too much. And I agree with what you say about playing time. It created a very tough situation. I respect the fact that he still wants to play, and he thinks he can play. And I underline the word think. I compare that situation with what went on in Detroit when at the beginning of this season, Miguel Cabrera said, "This is it for me." And they honored him in the manner in which he should be honored. He is a lead pipe Hall of Famer, I think, just like Votto is. And now he's moving into the Detroit front office, beginning right now. He's going from a great player to a guy that's going to lend his expertise and knowledge and everything that went into making him the player that he became, in the hopes that it will impart upon some of the younger players to make them better down the road. Votto, on the other hand, could have had the same thing that they did in Detroit for Cabrera, but he chose to continue playing, and he's repeating the same thing that he said at the beginning of last year. I'm playing this year, and now he's saying I feel like I can come back and play next year. So I think he's put this club in a tough situation, because the fans are going to raise hell about the club if they elect to part company with him, and they're going to say they're cheap and they're this and they're that, and that all of that will be dead wrong. But then again, with people who have more objectivity, like you and like me and like a whole bunch of other people, would say if they just arbitrarily give him the $20 million to come back because he's been such an asset for the last 17 or 18 years, that's a bad business decision. It is a bad business decision now, and it will be a bad business decision if they give him $20 million to come back next year.
Casey, you are the regular here. Before we wrap it up, and we thank you, Dad, for your time here today, what would you like to say to the Hall of Famer, if anything?
I've got a couple things. One, this has no question. I'm just saying as a statement. This was my first year as a Reds fan. I feel like I had a pretty good season as first Reds fan.
You did. Yeah. You went a lot. You did. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a lot to look forward to. Yeah. I'm really happy I started to follow this team this year. Now the chat has asked a few questions. They sent in some super chats. I'm gonna just read through them really quickly. Molly, one of our viewers, says, "Marty, what would you do, or what is your favorite Reds player of all time? Who is your favorite?"
I respond to that by naming two players, and it's hard for me to separate one from the other. I sadly would offer to you that I believe today is the anniversary of Joe Morgan's passing 3 years ago. Oh, wow. Joe Morgan's the smartest player I ever had the pleasure of being associated with. And I say it with great prejudice because he also was a dear, dear friend of mine. And Pete is the same thing. So my two all-time favorite players are Pete Rose and Joe Morgan. In answer to a question that you did not ask, in your opinion, who's the greatest player in the history of the franchise? My answer to that would be Frank Robinson. They traded him in the 60s saying he was over the hill. He promptly went to Baltimore and won an MVP award with the Orioles. I think he's the greatest all-around player in the history of this club. But Morgan and Rose are the two guys that were my all-time favorite players.
Okay. And then Mr. Mo asked,
This
what
is
would
the
you
last
do?
one here now.
Yeah. What would you do with the catcher situation?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I think the single biggest disappointment on this team was Stevenson this year.
I don't argue with that at all. And I think I think they need to make some type of decision as to what road they're going to go with Tyler, because he certainly didn't have the year that I thought he was going to have. I love the kid. I think he's a quality person, and is the kind of guy that every club would want to have wearing their uniform. But again, we go back to business being business. They may decide to go in another way, another route. I thought Luke Maley did a great job for this club, exceeding any expectation that anybody had. But again, you're not talking about a guy who's an everyday player. So they have to decide, are we going to see a different Tyler Stevenson in 2024? Or if they've got their mind made up otherwise, they got to go out and find somebody to be an everyday catcher on this club.
All right. Well, Dad, we thank you for your generosity. We've kept you here 40 minutes, and it's been great stuff.
Tom,
all of our chat members love this
Can
stuff.
I make a point?
Of course.
Before I go, as far as this club is concerned, and I've said it to people who raised hell because they folded down the stretch and they were worn out and they didn't make the postseason. When we talk about the 2023 Reds 25 years from now, the thing that I will always remember is, and I agreed with not making a move at the trade deadline 110%, and I still agree with it.
Okay.
This team is going to go down. This young bunch of kids that didn't know how to spell the word pressure any more than feeling it. This is a team that made baseball relevant again in this town. Mm-hmm. Given the success that the Bengals had going into this year with Joe Burrow and all the rest of those talented football players, what FC Cincinnati has done in still its relative infancy, baseball had almost become an afterthought. And this team made baseball relevant again. And I think this team is going to go on a run that will make them an impactful club in the National League Central if it stays healthy for a number of years to come. That's all I got.
Fair enough. All right. Well, I was going to say, send you an invitation. Your longtime partner, of course, God rest his soul as well, Joe Nuxall. Hamilton
Yep.
Joe. Here in Hamilton this weekend, they have one of their biggest events that they have on an annual basis, and that is Operation Pumpkin. It's a 4-day celebration. What the hell are you laughing at, Elliot?
I'm not laughing. Go ahead. Continue with the bit.
Why are you laughing?
Continue, please. I'm not laughing. I love you, and I are the biggest Hamilton supporters in this room, bar none. But I want you to continue, though.
Well, I was just going to say, I know he's going out of town, so unfortunately, you're unable to come. I would like to think that sometime down the road you could come over and join us. We're going to go on a big walkthrough. Shake hands, kiss babies, all that kind of thing. What the hell are you laughing at, Elliot?
I'm not laughing.
You're over there laughing at something.
I can't believe
I'm not
this.
doing anything. I'm not. Tom, continue, please. I love
Believe
Hamilton.
this.
All right, sometime down the road, I hope you can come join us because we're going to be here this week.
I will. If I'm in town next year, we'll do it.
Operation Pumpkin. We'll look forward to it. All right,
I got
Dad,
it.
thanks for the time. Have a great rest of your day.
All right, guys. Good to be with you today. Nice to be back.
Good to be back. Great to have you back. That's good stuff right there.
Thanks, Tom.
That's great.
Well, what's wrong with you?
What's wrong with
You're
me?
sitting there shaking your head.
me?
I mean, he's the one you ought to be worried about. And you're
It's
sitting
not
there
me. It's
shaking
you.
your
It's
head.
not me. It's you.
Time out a second. I am sitting here and I am extending, right? Christian fellowship here. Extending an invitation. I mean, I drive in today to Hamilton, as I do every single day like you guys do. A couple of you live here. And the signs are up everywhere. High Street's going to be closed, right? The 12th through the 16th. And big letters right there. I saw them this morning. Operation Pumpkin. We've talked about it. Why are you laughing?
I'm not.
And so I invited my dad to come out, but then I remembered he goes on this Reds cruise every year. Trace, could you, again, bring back some sanity to this? These two guys over here, I don't know what the hell is going on over there.
Very unserious over there.
Very
What are you guys talking
doubt
about?
it.
Yeah, Tom, this is a very serious sports talk show.
Thank
I don't know
you.
why. I
Thank
don't
you.
know why they always try to make everything funny over there. They got people in the chat that are mad at him because they got an opportunity to ask Marty some questions, and they're over there just having fun. And you know what? I mean, that's just who they are. If you don't like that side of the room, then that's a you thing, not a me thing. There's a lot of things that Marty said though that I thought were relatively interesting, and I thought were very wise.
So I want to, by the way, Trace, I want to say something. Trace asked a Joey Votto question after I already talked about Joey Votto. He already explained the whole Joey Votto situation.
He presented it in a totally different way.
No, it was
you
the same
two
thing.
guys
Time out.
asked the question of the only two topics, I think, that he directly addressed. Trace, help me here. He said, I would do this with a starting rotation, bring in a veteran guy. I would do
misworded my
this with the
question.
bullpen.
I
And the
misworded
first
it.
two questions out of your guys, that side of the room. Hey, Marty!
Hey,
What'd you do with the bullpen?
listen,
Hey,
I-
Marty!
listen, I-
What'd you do
there's-
with that starting rotation?
No, wait.
That was the bravest thing I've ever done, guys. Is there's no one I maybe respect more in this world than Marty Brennaman, and it's a chance to ask Marty Brennaman a question. And the first thing I pull out is a troll. I asked a joke just to carry on the joke. I was gonna ask him about Will Benson of all people, and I was
Right.
just like, I've got to buy into this bit.
Listen, Casey took the easy way out and went with the super chat way. I'm a gambler. I took a risk. I was reading the chat. At some point, we have to pay attention to our chat. These are our loyal members. I was listening in one ear and I was paying attention to the chat in the other. So did I get distracted for a little bit? Yeah, I did. Did I take a risk? Did I swing and a miss with an Ian Jabot question? Yes, I did. I can't be Mr. Funny up here all the time, all right? I can't do it. I need somebody else to help me. Casey was reading the super chats. He took the easy way out. Next time, I'm just going to read the super chat. I'm not even going to think of anything creative.
No,
I'm not going to talk.
Now you're getting
you
defensive.
sound
Now
like
you're getting
Nick,
defensive. This is defensive. This is what I sound like at
I'm not
Hamilton.
going to talk to the chat. I'm not going to say anything funny.
This is the kind of stuff.
Tom, do you have that fake British accent in your
This
bag?
is the kind of reaction, right, that I get from my 21-year-old daughter, 20-year-old daughter, where, I'll say something to her, she gets immediately defensive, and then now says, well, from now on, I'm going to do it.
That's right.
We have a word for this, Tom.
You are an intelligent, hardcore, knowledgeable baseball fan, Reds fan.
Thank you very much.
You have questions that would be very good questions, I have no doubt, for Marty Brennaman.
No doubt.
Today, however,
what I should have done, in
you
hindsight,
should
what I
have
should have
worn
done, I should have
Pampers.
specifically asked about Ian Jabot. I should have specifically asked
You
about
should
Ian
have.
Jabot. Instead, I went with the bullpen as a whole. I made a mistake. You want me to say I effed up? I effed up. That's what I did. Jim Calhoun.
but I love the line about Gubna.
What?
That's a big league line, big league word, Gubna.
Thank you.
That is from Name the Musical. Come on now. Come on now.
You're swinging and missing with this one.
Come on
with me.
now. There's got to be some culture in this room somewhere.
Fiddler on the Roof.
No.
No, that
Good
happened in
guess.
Is
Russia.
it
What are you
My
something to do
Fair
with the
Lady.
West?
My Fair Lady. My Fair Lady. Okay. All right. Any other thoughts from that conversation with Marty?
I thought he brought up a good point. It feels like there's I guess stereotype's the only word that comes to mind I guess I'll just lay it out there. I was surprised to hear Marty say he felt like they shouldn't have done anything at the deadline, and then he ended it with maybe the best point he made the entire time, which is this Reds team this year, although they didn't accomplish really anything in regards to a records book, you're not going to hang a pennant, you're not going to do anything special for this specific club. There's never going to be any memorable nights about the 2023 Reds team, but they definitely did allow the city to get back into the sense that they have a baseball franchise that is relevant. And whether or not they will ultimately become this young core of guys that end up taking them to the promised land or not, I don't know. Nobody knows that answer yet. But it was nice to hear Marty obviously acknowledge the fact that he felt like they did a lot for this city in regards to, or not just the city, but that franchise specifically, in getting a lot of people back on the bandwagon per se. Because they were down in the dumps, pretty low.
There's no question. There's no question. I mean, they were down on ownership. Now, look, having said all those things, the Reds' attendance this year through the roof. Through the roof. They never saw this coming. They had the single biggest, I think, attendance increase from any team in Major League Baseball.
That's right. They did.
Or somewhere in that
46%.
Okay.
They did.
I mean, huge, right? The Bally's thing, we'll see where that's going. I don't know where that's going. And that is a huge factor in all of this because, as many of you know, Bally's has already cut ties with a couple of teams in baseball, the Diamondbacks and the Padres. They were taken to court by the Twins, the Guardians, and I'm drawing a blank on the third. Doesn't matter. That is a huge source of revenue for the team. But the bottom line is they made a pile of money in relation to what they thought they were going to make. So there will be pressure. Now that we've seen these young players, and there should be pressure, on this ownership group to go out and do whatever you have to do. And I'm not talking about upping your team payroll to $200 million. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying there will be pressure and should be pressure to go out and make some moves. Okay, you didn't want to do it to trade deadline? That's fine. But you have to do what you have to do to get this team ready to legitimately contend. I'm not jumping on the bandwagon yet. I'm not. Because I haven't seen it from their starters. You can tell me about potential all you want. I haven't seen it. Seen glimpses of it. But I'm talking about long haul, healthy and effective long haul. Not seen it out of Green, not seen it out of Lodolo, not seen it out of Ashcraft. I got to tell you, when I look at this Reds rotation right now, the one guy that maybe I have more trust in than any of them is Brandon Williamson.
Knower of ball, Thom Brennaman.
I got to tell you, the guy is savvy. He's got good stuff. He stays healthy. Again, I'm not saying he's the most talented of that group. But when I just look at, you hand him the ball, he takes the ball, he competes, he hadn't been hurt. This is a guy, to me, that's a sleeper in this whole operation. And Abbott, we'll see. I'm a big we'll see guy on Abbott, too. We'll see. But there is, without question, unbelievable potential from that group. But they do need some veteran presence in that rotation. They need to do something to the bullpen. And then what are they going to do with some players who will be in line to make a big jump in salary arbitration? Are they going to non-tender Fraley? Are they going to non-tender some other guys who are a big part of this team? I thought Fraley was as important a part of this team as anybody they had on the team. Stevenson, what are they going to do with him? There are a lot of big-time questions about this team. But for the first time in a long time, it certainly has a feeling, and rightfully so, of optimism. I mean, 10,000-fold compared to October, what are we? October the 11th a year ago, right?
100% agree. Right before we get to locals at 11, Tom, we'll do a chat poll question of the day. I want to hear your opinion on this, and we can get all of our answers. If I told you have three options in the offseason to get, and again, who it would be, we don't know that answer yet. But if you were to spend a significant amount of money, whatever term you or whatever amount you want to use, it doesn't matter. But you would say that they were a reliable piece coming in, something to get really excited about. Would you pick a starter? I know your answer, but based off what you've said. But the three would be:
okay.
Would you take a starter?
Yep.
Would you take a power bat?
Yep.
Or would you take an elite reliever?
I'm going to have to go starter. What about you guys?
I would get a power bat.
Okay.
I would get a power bat.
Let's understand. Any of these three, you can make an argument.
Right. The only one that I don't think that they should do is an elite reliever. I talked with Trace about this before. An elite reliever is going to cost you $30 million over 2 years, $15 million to get a true elite reliever. And I don't think the Reds should be spending $15 million on a relief pitcher.
Okay.
Mine would be power bat as well.
Okay.
I think that was what we missed during the kind of losing skid of August, late July, August. So that's one part in the outfield I would really like to see.
It's also about the power bat thing. They play 81 games at Great American Ballpark, so you should kind of tailor your team to playing at your home field, and power is something that plays at Great American Ballpark. So that'd be another reason to get a power bat.
Trace, what was your answer?
I tell you, this is a tough one because I do think a power bat is high on the list. I keep thinking the same thing that you think, Tom. I really do. I'm not saying I'm not a believer in the Reds' starting rotation in regards to what they have an opportunity to have, but it's not just health. It's also inconsistency from production as well. Now, if you want to argue that was because of health, maybe I'll buy that a little bit. But Hunter Green at times has gotten hit really, really hard, and he's looked unbelievable at times.
Yep.
I mean, against the Twins, he looked like a Cy Young
No
type
doubt
guy.
about it.
I mean, and I know that there was an argument whether they take him out or not take him out in that game, but in a what felt like a must-win game for the Reds, I'm going to give Hunter Green as much credit as you can possibly give. He went out there, he took the ball, he struck out a career high, and honestly, it looked like he could have gone the last 2 innings and probably maybe shut him out. But that's not what happened. But again, he's gotten hit. Lodolo has not really been healthy either year.
Yep.
And then you have Ashcraft, who, if you remember, before he even got hurt, there was a little small portion of this year where he was getting hit hard. So I'm with you. It'd be nice to have a steady arm that you can rely on, and those obviously don't grow on trees, I get. But if you told me there was one thing this offseason that the Reds got, and I'm using the example of like a Verlander. Now, I know Verlander's old, but just someone like that, where you're like, this guy's going to take the ball.
A no-brainer.
This guy takes the ball. You're getting probably 7 innings, 7 innings of maybe 1 or 2 run baseball more times than not. That would get me the most excited, I guess is the way I would answer it.
Casey?
Yeah, I'm going to go with power bat. I think you saw what happened when they were hitting really well. I mean, this city was electric.
Yep.
I think that draws people in.
Yep.
The hitting will get people in the seats. And I think this team, you get a power bat, it just makes your strength even more of a strength. It can elevate you to tops of the league, which it's already at tops of the league. So then people are more concerned with just this Reds team has batters everywhere.
And I always ask the question, and it's been brought up in the chat. Now that we've learned a little bit more, as Harry Carey used to say to me all the time, he used to say to me, Tom, don't ever forget this. And I've never forgotten it because this is the truth. There are 3 sides to every story. Your side, my side, and the truth. And what am I talking about here? Ask yourself the question. We heard one side for a long, long time. We've only recently heard the other side with some evidence to back it up. And I don't know who's telling the truth, and I don't know what the truth is. But would you consider bringing back Trevor Bauer?
I think you might want to wait on that one.
We'll get back till later. I'm not saying that he's right in any form or fashion. I don't know. All I know is I heard one side for a long, long time, and we were unable to hear the other side. He's at least laid out some of the other side. Now, does that mean that everything he is saying is true or everything that the women are saying is true? I don't know. I don't think anybody knows except for those people directly involved. Will we ever know the truth? I'm just asking. What'd you think about it? Of course, one of the most important parts of life for many people, not necessarily for me, because I'm in a great mood like Reed, whether it's sunny, whether it's raining, whether it's snowing, whether the wind is blowing 50 miles an hour, you can go fly a kite and have a great day when the wind's blowing.
Yeah.
I mean, doesn't get any better than that. But to tell us, for those of you where it matters, Elliot, please take it away with our forecast.
Well, hey, everybody. Listen, it's time for the weather as everybody rushes to the door. So here's what's happened this morning. I was basically essentially I mean this weather broadcast gone. I mean, that was the most disrespectful thing. Everybody just got up and left. Now it's just me
I'm
in here.
here. I'm here.
I'm here.
Ronald Reagan's here.
Half the cast is
and,
in here.
and Quincy's over there. All right, back to the weather, though. I was driving in this morning. There was a heavy condensation on my windshield. It was because it was foggy out. There was a lot of fog. I guess what happens, and I guess, again, I'm a meteorologist. I should know the scientific way to say this. But essentially what happened was it's really cold out, but at the same time it wants to be warm. That means a cloud will come down from the sky, and then it'll stay there. That's essentially what fog is. It wants to be warm, but it's cold. Cloud, fog. So I was driving through that this morning, and I was a little late to work, partly because I hit a bird on the way in.
A bird.
A bird.
A plane.
I
you
felt
an
terrible.
animal birder?
I felt terrible. I
First
was
blaming then the bird?
no. I didn't. I got out of my car to make sure the bird was okay. The bird flew from the sky. Okay, hit my windshield, bounced off like the hardest basketball, bouncing off the best basketball court. Just boom, off the car. Now the bird, if the bird was flying correctly, it was foggy out, which enlied some of the issue here.
Yeah.
If the birds can't see in the fog, right? So the bird was trying to get through the fog, boom, hit my windshield, probably dead. I don't know. I didn't know if it lived or not, if I'm going to be honest with you. But here's the thing. It's sunny outside right now. The weather is great. Casey just handed me my phone. Anybody can do this. Anybody can go on your phone, check the weather, because you don't have to actually watch weather forecasts because all the information's there. People are going to say that's a tired bit. It's not. It's just the truth. So yeah, 12 to for the next 5 days. Just no rain, only sun, just cold. Just going to be really cold out. So today, high is 63, low of 38. Bring your sweatshirts. I'm in a sweatshirt and sweatpants. Go outside. If your work doesn't allow sweatshirts and sweatpants, that's unfortunate. So I really have no options for you. I guess you would wear khaki pants or in a nice collared shirt. I don't do that here. So that's all I got for you. But today's a great.
Johns.
Today's a great. What's up?
Let's put on some long johns.
No long johns for me. And to be quite honest, I don't even know what long johns are. But Ronald Reagan.
Oh well. Today I'm Ronald. Why do you call me Ronald Reagan?
Because I'll take it back to me. I'll take it back.
I don't get this bit.
I'll take it back. So you're good. Yeah. So no. So I call Reed Ronald Reagan. Everybody in this room has to have a nickname. Reed is Ronald Reagan. Casey is Quincy. Tom, I haven't found one for Tom yet. And Trace is Chip.
The one thing you think of when you think of me, I mean, you think of Ronald Reagan, you think of politics and all this stuff.
Yeah.
When you think of people that align with those politics, you think me. You think me, right? Like, that's the first thing.
Not really.
I mean,
Not
my
really
politics
at all.
align with Ronald Reagan all
If
the way.
anybody got the nickname Ronald Reagan,
Yeah. Me? You think I'm Ronald Reagan?
it should be me.
Oh, it's you. You're Ronald Reagan.
I mean, it should be me. I
No,
mean,
I
listening
think-
to you guys talk about what's going on in the world, there's no way in hell that reads Ronald
I think
Reagan.
you're more of a George Washington type.
George, well, because I'm gray.
No, not because you're gray. Because you're a leader of men.
And old.
You lead the men.
men.
You lead the men
Across the Potomac.
across the. Yeah, that's a word. And you lead them right across that Potomac. And the Potomac has wheels, and you use those wheels and the horses.
You know
and
where the Potomac reminds me a little bit of?
What?
The Great Miami, right up the road here.
That's right, Hamilton River. So okay, that's it for the weather. Again, high 63, low at 38. Chip, back to you. Well, actually, no, it's actually back to Casey. Whoops.
Casey?
Well, this is the part of the show where Elliot still doesn't remember when he does that bit that Casey has to adjust the camera, so you have to send it to the main desk. So Elliot forgot that.
That's okay. We're back. We're here.
This is all about growth.
It's all about learning.
You know, that's
is.
where, when you get a little older, you know, you become more concerned about others' growth, not just your own growth, which you hope, continues, but you're really concerned about others' growth. And I am very concerned about everybody's growth sitting in this room. So that's part of Elliot's growth. We've seen that illustrate itself already on multiple occasions today alone.
Yes, I agree.
Yes, we have. Trace?
All right, so the Encore report is brought to you by Encore Technologies. Encore Technologies provides IT solutions for a data-centered world with a suite of services from mobile computing to desktop to data center, supporting both centralized and work-from-home computing modules to improve efficiency and productivity. Good job, everyone.
That was all
On key, too. That's awesome. Visit encore.tech. The path to innovation begins here. And let me tell you about this lovely bottle of water here, Pawnee Water, made right here in Hamilton, Ohio. uses natural limestone filtration, unlike the artificial processing that other brands use. The result? A healthy alkaline water, the best tasting water in the world. Visit Pawnee Water at PAHHNI water.com to see where you can buy this great tasting water. And for me, it's the pH level. It's not a 7. It's not a 9. It's a perfect 8.
Yeah, it's
perfect 8. What's
perfect
your
eight.
favorite thing about this
Well,
water, Reed?
you guys know this. It's the natural limestone filtration. But if I can be honest about something about Pawnee Water, I'm gonna say that there is one con of it. There is one bad thing that Pawnee Water has, and it is when you take a drink, you have an involuntary reaction. I'm gonna show you right now. Like this is not me doing a bit. This is like what happens when you take a drink of Pawnee. See, it happens every time. I mean, you just take a little. So if you don't want to do that, then don't drink Pawnee. It's just that good, though, that you have to go, it's that refreshing. It's just the best water in the world.
Trace, what do you like about this water?
Well, the fact that it just says water on the bottle. I don't know if many of you know this, but if you go to a convenience store and you pick up other brands, maybe you're not familiar with the other brands because you only drink Pawnee, one would understand. But the other brands that exist inside the gas stations, if you pick them up and you look on the bottle, it actually says other things outside of just water. Why? Because there's additives. There's no additives inside of Pawnee water. So that's my favorite thing. Because when I drink water, I'd like to just drink water. Now, that's the goal of drinking water.
One ingredient in the bottle, and it's water. And it gets there through natural limestone filtration. The pH level is 8. Tom, take it away.
Wait.
What about
I
Elliot?
didn't get to say what my favorite part about it was. For me, it's the smoothness. You know, when you go to these other brands,
Is that like your White Claws?
it's a lot. Well, it's not like the White Claw. It's better than the White Claws.
Okay. Better for you, I think.
What? Better for
for
Yeah,
you.
it is. Yes, it is. And my actual least favorite part about it is when you drink it, there's less to be had later on. So it's you drink some,
Yep.
and then you have now I can never get that back because I've already drank it. So Pawnee Water, perhaps the greatest water known to man.
Now, Tom, take it away.
Now take it away, Tom. What do you like about this water?
I said yesterday I like the people. I love the product, but I love the people.
That's a good answer.
I mean, I see these guys that own it in the parking lot virtually every day. And I'm rooting for them. I said it yesterday. I hope that Kroger and UDF, I hope that they can find a way to start putting Pawnee water in their stores. Because, look, the one thing about Cincinnati and greater Cincinnati, Hamilton, wherever we are, Middletown, anything, is we love to support our own and get behind our own. And I think if you put a local made right across the street, local made product, greater Cincinnati product in the stores, I think people will flock to it and buy it. I think it'd be a good thing. It's a win-win. I always try to look at things as, at the end of the day, what's the upside, what's the downside, right? And sometimes you make good decisions in those situations, sometimes you don't. But this is a win-win for everybody. Okay, we were talking about today, Casey, refresh my memory about where we were going about next here.
Are we going to buy or sell?
Yeah, we got a buy or sell segment, Tom.
Okay, buy or sell. It's all new to me, so I'm excited about it.
All right. So here.
So explain what it is for those who are just now tuning in.
Yeah. So here's what we're gonna do.
Including me.
I'm gonna propose a question.
Okay.
And it's going to be about the NFL. We're about 5 weeks into the season. And then we go around the room and we give our take. Are you buying this or are you taking it?
Okay.
Or selling
Cool,
this?
I love it.
All right, so let's do
So
this.
you're like the Jim Cramer of the show. Maybe that's your new nickname.
Jim Cramer,
Jim Cramer.
Yeah,
Buy or sell.
Need stock advice. I'm right here for you.
Okay.
Go ahead, Casey, run that track.
Let's run it. Buy or sell?
Wow. That's pretty sweet.
It's time for Mad Money with Jim Cramer. Is that how
That's
it-
right. That's right.
All right.
That's right.
All right, first buy or sell. Tom, we'll start with you.
Oh.
And then we'll go around the room. Is Brock Purdy is an MVP candidate? You think he's a serious candidate to win the most valuable player this year?
Serious candidate. For me right now, he gets the award hands down.
So you're buying
To
that.
me, I mean, I am buy. Thank you very much. I buy. I'm buying Brock Purdy, man. Give me that dude. I want the guys that never lose.
That's good.
I mean,
That's
really,
fair.
you give me all the stats, What did Marty call them? Stat what?
Geeks.
Was that the word?
Yeah.
I think he used the word geeks.
Multiple
Analytics
times.
Geeks.
Analytic geeks.
Okay. Look, all the analytics, and you were running through some I don't know if it's PFF or somewhere about
PFF.
what are the highest rated quarterback. You know what?
Local
the
company.
dudes who's 10-0, that's the guy I want. I take Brock Purdy. Yes, I buy. All right, who's next?
Trace, you buying that Brock Purdy is a legitimate MVP candidate?
Yes, and actually, believe it or not, Tom might not believe this, but the analytic folks actually support the claim that Brock Purdy is the MVP this
He
season.
told me today that Pro Football Focus had him ranked like 8th.
He's not in the top 6. I don't know where he
Well,
ranks.
that's Pro
He's not in the
Football
top
Focus.
6.
There is an efficiency stat that I don't have right in front of me right this second, but
It's the highest.
But it's the highest efficiency stat in the NFL, and in fact, that efficiency stat that has been used, whoever finished highest during the regular season as a quarterback has won the MVP every season that they started keeping it. And right now, Brock Purdy is that guy who is the most efficient. And I actually think when you watch the games, I was talking about this yesterday on the long way home from Chicago. Brock Purdy is a guy, based off of what his background has been, is going to not get credit until he has to do the ultimate, until he does something so ridiculous that everyone has to believe it, right? It's one of those things where if he was a top 10 pick in the NFL based off of the way he looks, if there was scouts that thought Brock Purdy looked amazing before the draft started,
So if Brock
all
Purdy
of
was
those
Joe
things,
Burrow.
yeah, or anybody else for that matter. I would even say Herbert or anyone else.
Yeah.
And I get the reason why he wasn't a top 10 pick is because he doesn't have the measurables and all these things. But just from the standpoint of what his play has been, if he was one of those guys, not a single soul in the entire NFL community would say Brock Purdy isn't legit, which is all basically an opinion of somebody else. It has nothing to do with the guy's play. It's just what other people believe that he was supposed to be before he came into the league. So I do think Brock Purdy is an MVP so far this season. And when you watch him play, he plays in the system that they've developed for him. You can't get mad at a guy because he doesn't throw the ball downfield and do back shoulder throws and all these things. Can he try to make those throws? Is he as good as maybe a Joe Burrow in that category? No, but he plays within the system that he's built, or not he built, Shanahan has built. And you know what? You got to give the guy as much credit as anyone else in the league, because not only does he win games, but he's a part of the reason they win games, Tom.
Yeah.
So your word is
Bye.
Bye. And Tom,
you were the guy
I'm-
killing him last year. Killing him.
Well, you
Killing
all
him.
killed me. You all
Killing
killed me
him.
because
Killing
I
him.
was doubting him. And then over time I changed my mind. Now it seems like it's been flipped on me. It's like you guys are all doubting him. I'm all in on him. I think the dude
Hey, it
is
takes
awesome.
a strong man to admit when he might have been wrong.
Yeah,
And
I
I
am
think I might have
on
been
the
some
line
credit.
and admit it every single time. I'll admit it.
And listen, Brock, I know what people are thinking. He's throwing to wide open guys, but when it does come, when he has to make a throw, when he has to make a play,
Nut cutting time.
Nut cutting time. He's making those plays. I don't care that he's got a top 5 receiving core. So does Joe Burrow. Right? It doesn't matter who's around you. It doesn't matter who you're playing. If you're throwing for 4 touchdowns every game, 3 touchdowns every other game, like he's scoring 30 points every time he's played. The full game. Except for like one time against Dallas last year. And then he just torched them last week.
Yes, he did.
He's unbelievable for
All
me.
right, Elliot.
Sell.
Oh.
Sell.
Oh my God.
Here's the thing. The way I've always looked at the MVP award, the way I've always looked at the best player in the league. If you took away that player from their team, how would that team do? If I took away Brock Purdy from the San Francisco 49ers and I put in quarterback X, they'd be just as good. Christian McCaffrey has scored a touchdown in 15 consecutive games. He gets 100 yards receiving, rushing every game, almost. They have elite weapons. Reed said it yesterday. They have an elite weapon at every single position. Every single position. If I put some bum quarterback, maybe not Jake Browning, maybe a little bit better than him, but some ex-quarterback in that spot, they would still win games for the 49ers. That's how I've always done it.
So that's
If
why
I
they
took
traded
away-
Trey Lance?
Huh?
That's why they traded Trey Lance away? Any bum quarterback can play? I don't think so.
Trey
Why would
Lance-
they trade Trey Lance, a
Trey
top
Lance-
3 pick
Trey
that
Lance-
they
Trey Lance
sacrificed
got
their
hurt.
entire future
Trey
for?
Lance got hurt, and then Brock Purdy came in and took his spot. That's a
Why
different.
didn't they give it back to him?
Yeah, he was healthy
Because
this whole
Brock Purdy already
offseason.
All right, I think a better question would be,
Yeah.
based on what you just said, if that's true, then why could they literally not get a first down after Purdy got hurt in the playoffs last year against Philadelphia?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fair question. I don't believe Christian McCaffrey was playing. I think he got hurt too. I think
He was the quarterback at
He
one
was
point.
the quarterback.
that's right. Okay. Didn't he? But he got hurt in that game, right?
Purdy.
No, all the other quarterbacks got hurt, is
Like,
what you're
Christian
thinking.
McCaffrey was literally their quarterback.
Okay. So and yeah, that is somewhat true. Like I said, they can't be the worst quarterback in the league. So it can't be Jake Browning. It can't be Josh Johnson, who I think
There
it
you
was.
go. Josh Johnson, you're right.
It has to be a serviceable quarterback, but at the end of the day, I still think if they had Jimmy G, if they had Dak Prescott, if they had any of these names, let's go down the list. If they had Daniel Jones, if they had guys that aren't great quarterbacks, I think the offense would still cook. I think Christian McCaffrey and the defense and the wide receivers and every other part of that team makes that team go. I think Purdy's great. I'm not taking anything away from Brock Purdy. He's in a system that fits him well, and he's doing his job to the best of his ability.
Okay.
But
Reed,
is he an MVP?
do you
No.
answer this question too, Reed?
I will answer this
All
question,
right.
and I'm in the camp with Elliot here. I'm selling this. I don't think Brock Purdy is a legitimate MVP candidate, and I think it's for the points that Elliot brought up. I think it is because we look at this team, we look at this 49ers team, and we see that they are so stacked. They are so loaded. And listen, this is the guy. I'm the guy that talks about quarterbacks. I think quarterbacks are the main reason you have success in the NFL, more so than coaches, more so than the rest of the team. You got a good quarterback, you're going to win a lot of games. But if there's any team that can buck that thought in my mind, it's the San Francisco 49ers. Jimmy Garoppolo is like 40-16 as a starter for the San Francisco 49ers. And Jimmy G is
Good quarterback.
He's a good quarterback. It's well stated that he's a good quarterback, but we all know what's the first thing we say when we talk about Jimmy G? He's the dreaded game manager. Start plucking other teams' quarterbacks and put them in Brock Purdy's role. Does the 49ers change all that differently? You take out Kirk Cousins, Vikings, good quarterback. You throw him in the 49ers. Are they better? Maybe. You take Dak Prescott from the Cowboys. You throw him over in the 49ers. Similar team. You can do that across the board. Practically every quarterback in the NFL, you pluck them off their team, you throw them over on the 49ers, they will be one of the best teams in the NFL. And that's why I don't think Brock Purdy is a legitimate quarterback or a legitimate MVP candidate, because you can just plug and play with pretty much any starting quarterback in the league.
Okay. All right. What's next up?
All right, next up here, I was trying to think of the right way to word this. This is how I'm going to word this. Come week 13,
Yeah.
all four teams in the AFC North will be in the playoff hunt. So all four AFC North teams, Browns, Bengals, Ravens, Steelers, will be playoff contenders coming down the final stretch of the season.
Which, by the way, off topic real quick, but on topic to some extent. Did you see where Vegas came out with the odds to win the AFC North again yesterday, starting now after 5 games?
What was it?
Bengals are dead last.
Dead last. Bengals dead last.
Well, they're in last place in the division,
they
so-
had Baltimore 1. They were like plus 140, I think, something like that, right?
It seems likely they'll
They
win.
had Cleveland 2 at like plus 180.
Right.
They had the Steelers at like plus 270. And if I'm not mistaken, the Bengals were like plus 350 plus, right?
They were last time I seen it. The Bengals, shout out Betfred Sportsbook, I think were like plus 420 to win.
Okay, 420. All right.
Something like
And
that.
for what it's worth, I mean, we're talking 4 to 1. It's not like if you look at.
No, I know, but out of 4 teams are last. I'm just making a
Right,
point.
yeah,
I'm not
I get it.
suggesting
Right.
they're right.
It's an even division.
All right, let's go around the room. Elliot, you start this time. Buy or sell that all 4 teams in the North will be in the playoff hunt week 13, he said.
I'm going to sell it.
Sell.
I think the Steelers are bad, and I think the Cleveland Browns are going to be bad as well. I don't think they're going to be bad in the terms of, they're going to lose out, but I think they're going to have probably, by week 14, they'll have, 5 wins by then, maybe 6. I just don't think those teams are going to be good enough to win.
Okay.
Kenny Pickett's not good, and I think Deshaun Watson's dealing with an injury. So.
All right, Trace.
I can't buy that.
Sell.
Yeah, I'm selling that largely because I'm just not sure that 4 teams in any division are going to be able to hang around for the playoffs. It would require some carnage in the division itself, where perfectly every team kind of splits with everybody, and then on top of that, you go and you win outside of your division. And so far, the AFC North has not shown me anything to make me believe that they can win outside of their division. You look at a team like Pittsburgh, who finds a way to win these ugly games in division, and then they go and play anybody outside the division, they lose 30-6. So, I'm not suggesting for a second that I don't think there's some validity to the idea that the AFC North has good teams, but I don't know if I'm buying the idea that all 4 are going to actually be a part of the playoff conversation.
Casey?
I'm gonna buy. I'm gonna buy this because, one, we've seen time and time again the Steelers, they always manage to get pretty close to a above 500 record or 500. So that's one team. I think the Browns are significantly better on defense. Despite Deshaun Watson, I think you can win a lot of football games with a solid pass rush, a solid defense. If everyone stays healthy, I like the Browns' chances. They're probably my weakest team right now, but by week 13, they might not be out of it entirely at that point. The Ravens, they're the Ravens. Lamar Jackson, one of the highest graded quarterbacks on PFF. He's one of the most efficient quarterbacks currently. If his receivers could just catch a darn ball, they beat Pittsburgh. I think that they're in the mix too. The biggest question for me is the Browns, and I think the Browns, like I said, have a pretty decent roster. So
Okay,
I'm gonna buy
I'm by because of everything Trace just said. I don't think any of them win many games outside the division. I think they beat each other up, and I think there's a possibility, barring something happens with this Bengals offensive line, that dramatically improves in the run game and pass protection. And, of course, all this based on Burrow being healthy. But, if all those things happen, the Bengals could go on a roll and blitz them all because I think on paper they got the best team. But I haven't seen it yet. I don't care what happened last Sunday. So I say all 4 teams are in the hunt down to maybe week 14 or 15 because I think there's a chance the division winner could be 9-8.
Just really quickly before we move on from this, the Browns, which everyone's saying they're going to be dead in the water, they still play the Cardinals, Broncos, Bears, Jets, Texans. Colts right now are dealing with quarterback issues, and then they still play us at the end of the season. So you're looking at a potential 5-6 wins just right there alone.
Yeah, I'm going the inverse of what Tom just said. I am buying, but I think that the worst team in this division is like 8-9. Like I think that the Ravens are. I think they're a shoo-in to win double-digit games. I think the Ravens are going to win 11-something games. The Steelers always seem to go above 500. They've done it for 20-plus years now, or 16, however long Mike Tomlin's been there. And then I think that the Bengals are going to figure it out. So I think all these teams are going to be bunched up for the division, but I think they're all going to be wild card contenders come the final stretch of the season. I think all these teams are very good. I think the worst roster in the division is the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they've got the best defense probably. So I just think all these teams are very good. I think they're going to start showing the hard-nosed football of the AFC North when they start playing outside the division here coming soon. I'm buying this one.
See, this is why at the end of the day you can turn on the radio and listen to the other talk shows. There are a lot of good ones out there, a lot of talented people, a lot of smart sports talk, but you get some depth here with this show on Off the Bench. You get depth, differences of opinion, right?
Yeah.
And we can hash it out. You get stupid questions occasionally.
Occasionally he's being nice.
It's kind of nice.
What's next?
Stupid question here. We've got is the NFC better? The NFC is better than the AFC. You buying or selling, Tom? The NFC is greater than the AFC. They're better. I'll start us off if
I'll say I'm buying.
Okay.
I didn't think so going to be at the beginning of the year. I'd have never thought I'd say it in a million years. I think there are some teams that have really surprised us early on, and it is early, so maybe too early to even answer this with any conviction. But I think Seattle's got a good team. I think the 49ers have a good team. I think the Rams are okay. I don't think, I'm not going to go through every team in the NFC. I think the worst teams in the NFC are worse than the worst teams in the AFC. But I look at some teams like Tampa Bay. I mean, is that going to last? I don't know. But they look pretty damn good.
Sure.
They really do. And, I mean, I'm not even going to talk about the 49ers and the Eagles. Anyway, so I say I buy. Casey?
Oh, man. This one, I think, got a little tougher. I was on the bandwagon that AFC was better. I think the NFC has gotten a little bit better over the long haul, average-wise. Because I'm with you. I think the Rams are pretty decent. I think Packers, They're pretty decent on defense. Saints pretty decent on defense. I'm gonna buy it this time. I know we've had the argument that the quarterbacks are what really matter, but I mean overall, if you're talking about the rosters, I think the NFC is starting to win that battle.
I've said for a while I think the NFC gets slept on, and of course it's always made fun of because you can point to the quarterbacks really quickly in the AFC, and it makes you look like your point's valid and correct. I guess it goes to the same point I've made about college football for the longest time, is when you talk about conferences and you talk about things like what's important to you when it comes to how you're arguing whether a league is great or not great. For me, it's what does it take to get to the Super Bowl? And for my money, if you're a 4 or a 5 seed in the AFC versus the NFC, it's a lot easier to get to the Super Bowl in the AFC, in my opinion, as a 4 or 5 seed than it is as a 4 or 5 seed in the NFC. You got to go through the Eagles, and if you got to go through the Eagles and the 49ers, good luck to you. And you can also say, yes, the Cowboys are frauds, this, that, and the other. But again, that's a team that if they can find a way to where if Dak Prescott does play well, I would argue, again, people make fun of this, I would argue that if Dak Prescott plays well, and that's a big if at this point, I get it, but they're just as good as anybody else in the entire league. So if you're only hanging your hat on one player to prop your bet up on in the AFC, which is a quarterback, then ultimately you're admitting that essentially the team itself isn't nearly as good as some of these NFC teams. So I'm going to buy that. I've been buying that, and I'm going to continue to buy it.
I'm going to sell it. Sell. I do think that the very top of the NFC right now is better than the top of the AFC. But I think the rest of the conference is still better than the rest of the NFC. The rest of the AFC is still better than the rest of the NFC. I know the AFC South's having a down year, but even that division, they're all competitive teams right now. I think. I mean, I'm trying to count on one hand the bad team in the AFC. It's the Patriots.
Denver.
Patriots and Denver. Patriots and Denver.
Raiders, Jets.
I don't think the Jets are that bad. And again, that's where
I don't either.
That's where we differentiate.
Raiders just won on primetime. Yeah.
Raiders just won on primetime. So I think there's just there's really 2 bad teams, I'd say, in the AFC. There's probably about 5 bad teams in the NFC. Now, right now, through 5 weeks of the season, yeah, the NFC has been completely better, 100%. But down the stretch of the season, you have the Bills, you have the Dolphins, you have the Chiefs, you're going to have the Bengals, you have the Ravens. You're going to go down the line here. I didn't even mention the Chargers. So I think the AFC is significantly better. I think it's going to be harder to compete. It's harder to get in the playoffs for the AFC.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. It is harder to get in the playoffs in the AFC. Yeah, I'm selling this. I'm absolutely selling this. I'm not going to be a slave to the moment and watching the 49ers beat up on everybody and be a slave to the moment and how the Eagles looked last year, even though despite the Eagles lost in the Super Bowl to a hobbled quarterback. I think that the best team in the NFL right now, and I'm going to stand by this, is the Kansas City Chiefs. I think they got the best coach. I think they got the best quarterback. And I think those 2 things are vastly important in the NFL. And for the point that Trace made is everyone says that the AFC is better than the NFC because of the quarterbacks. Yes. There's a reason. Everyone knows that quarterback is
So you say that, but then you turn around and you act like Brock Purdy doesn't matter. That's where you lose me. You can't say Brock Purdy's irrelevant and then turn around and act like quarterback's the end-all, be-all. What is it about the 49ers offense that makes them so good then? What is it?
That's if you listen to me, that's what I say is that when I watch the 49ers, they're the one team that can buck my opinion on that the quarterback is the most important position.
The Eagles? You don't think you could swap out guys on the quarterback for the Eagles in one game?
I think Jalen Hurts is a really good quarterback. I never said anything bad about the Eagles. I think, and that's the point about the NFC. I think that the 49ers are very good. I think that they are stacked everywhere but the quarterback position. I think that the Eagles are a full roster. I do, and I think Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback. But then you look at the AFC, and the list of quarterbacks is on and on and on and on. I mean, we're talking Herbert, Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, all these guys, Trevor Lawrence. Tua, all these guys. That's why I think the AFC is better. And as Trace pushed back on me, as I've said, if there's one team that can really buck my opinion on that the quarterback is the end-all be-all in the NFL, it is the San Francisco 49ers, but I'm not ready to leave that opinion yet.
Really
I'm not ready to.
It still is early.
Correct.
Really quickly, one team we haven't even brought up yet. Tom obviously can do the buy or sell, but the Detroit Lions,
are the best team in the NFC.
Are almost twice as much favored to win the Super Bowl than the Ravens are.
Yeah, I mean the Ravens. I mean the Lions are the 3rd best team in the NFC. The Ravens are what, the fifth best team in the AFC. So, yeah, that makes sense. That adds up. That checks out.
Okay.
Let's do the next one.
Yep.
The final buy or sell today is about our beloved Cincinnati Fightin' Who Days. The run defense is the Bengals' greatest weakness. Are you buying that, Tom?
Buy. Buy. I mean, when teams have decided they're going to line it up and run at you, they have just abused this team. And I don't think that as good as the defense has been the last couple of years, and they've been good enough, in fact, and I'm the one who's made the argument on this show for the better part of a year now, that the defense the last 2 years was good enough to win the Super Bowl. It was the highly touted, ballyhooed offense that wasn't good enough to win the Super Bowl, and they proved it. They proved it in the championship game last year when they couldn't kick a field goal on their last 5 possessions. They proved it in the Super Bowl the year before when they couldn't kick a field goal on their last 4 or 5 possessions. The defense shut down the Rams. The defense shut down the Chiefs, comparatively speaking to other teams against the Chiefs. But even last year when the defense struggled, it was against teams that line it up and want to smash you into the ground. And they caught a break last year against Baltimore with Jackson being hurt. Big time break. And Baltimore ran at will against this team this year. So, yes, I buy that. Casey?
Before I said what I was going to say, I wanted to just double check to make sure that I wasn't saying anything incorrect here. This last game was the biggest disappointment in terms of the run game, but let's remember there was 2 very big, large runs, a 41-yard run and a 35-yard run. You take those away, the Cardinals, they had 70 yards on the ground, less than 3 yards a carry. I still think it's a big weakness. I don't think it's the biggest weakness because I think it can get fixed. There's a lot of just containment and just mental issues going on right now in terms of just what we've recently seen. I know in the past the Browns just were chunking us, Ravens chunking us, but those are 2 really good run defense or run teams. Titans also want to run the ball. They had a couple of big chunk plays, 29 and a 22-yard run. They still had over 100 yards on that day, but it was going to significantly change the outcome of that game if you take those 2 plays away. I think that they can, over time, get this fixed.
Yeah.
So for me, it's not the biggest weakness as of this moment because I think it is the biggest weakness as of right now. I don't think it will be going down the line.
Okay. Trace?
This is a tough one because I think the defense has been the reason why this Bengals team's had a lot of success. But to be fair, this year, at times, it certainly feels like the defense was the biggest step back from the years before, right? The offense, although has struggled this season, you can blame Joe Burrow's calf, which seems to be more than a valid reason as to why the offense has struggled at certain times this season. But I guess I would buy this because until you're able to somewhat stop a team from running the football, more times than not, it's hard to have a good defense if you can't stop the run. It's as simple as that. Play action is going to eventually open up as soon as you allow these big gainers. But at the same time, I'm with Casey in a little bit of a way. The offense as a whole and the run is neck and neck. I don't know if either of them are really major or big issues, though. That's the thing. And if they both end up being big issues, you finish last in the AFC North. If neither end up being big issues, you can win the AFC North. That's kind of you're on a very, very fine, tight line right now as a Bengal fan, and I don't know if the answer has been revealed quite yet on what the actual the issue is.
I'm going to buy it. I think the Bengals have given up 770 yards of rushing offense through 5 weeks. It's pretty pathetic.
Yep.
So it ranks second last, right in front of the Broncos, who have given up, by the way, an astounding 938 yards this season.
That's unbelievable.
But Bengals 770. Statistically, it is the greatest weakness, and I think it will continue to be that. The missed tackles, I know Casey made the point where if you take those runs away, I agree with the guys in the chat, you can't take them away. That's the thing. You can't take away certain plays. You can't do that. So if you look at it from a whole, they failed on Sunday against the Cardinals in terms of rushing defense. They failed every week except for really the Rams. I think it's largely.
And that's because the Rams didn't run the ball.
Correct.
That was their greatest strength coming into the game.
Correct.
All right.
So again, the Bengals offense, I think they're going to be fine. I think everything's really going to be okay. It's just, can we make tackles? Can Nick Scott make a tackle? I don't know if that'll be fixed.
How about if Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt can shed a blocker?
Yeah, that would be great too.
I mean, nobody, all right, I'm not even going to start today. Reed.
I love it, Tom. You're getting fired up.
I get crazy, man, about this stuff. I mean, go ahead.
I was going to let you
Go,
flesh out a take.
Go.
Listen,
people know my opinion on this. Go ahead.
I think that the run defense is incredibly alarming. I saw someone put in the chat earlier that the pass defense has been a bigger problem than run defense. That's silly talk. And they are the person who said that said it's because we miss Jesse Bates and Von Bell. You are right in a little bit, but we've definitely missed them more in the run game than we have in the pass game. The safeties, Dax Hill and Nick Scott, have been okay in the pass game. They have not been very good in the run game. I still believe that the Bengals' biggest weakness is the fact that they can't score more points. And I think that is because of the offensive play call.
Yep.
I hate to be that fan that I feel like this is such a tired take. I feel like it's low-hanging fruit to look at a team's poor performance and go, where's the play call? Why aren't we more creative? Then you go watch the Dolphins. You go watch the Kansas City Chiefs. You go watch the 49ers. Like, this is fun. They play so well. But I'm just looking at this team, and they've got so much talent on the offensive side. Why can't we score more? Why can't we score more? And if the Bengals want to get where they want to be, and that is at the top of the mountaintop, if they want to get back in the AFC Championship game, if they want to get back in the Super Bowl, if they want to win a Super Bowl, it's got to have more production out of the offense. So that's why I'm selling this, and I think that the offensive play calling is the Bengals' greatest weakness.
Okay. Is that our
That's it.
buy or sell?
Buy or sell.
I like that segment.
That's fun.
That's a keeper.
You got fired up there at the end, Tom.
Well, I do, because I just don't understand why you go out and spend a king's ransom on linebackers. Now, if it's Luke Kuechly, Roquan Smith, I mean,
Well, to be fair, they spent that same amount of money that Roquan got on 2 linebackers.
I get. But the point is I still look at linebacker play and the way the game has evolved. Now, some might be saying, Tom, you can't have it both ways by criticizing the run defense and then say that having good linebackers is not important, because it's contradictory.
Right.
Because good linebackers are going to help you stop the opposing team's run game. I'm just saying the 2 guys they're paying, they ain't stopping the run game. End of story.
More than fair.
Now, again, it's early. I'm not going to beat down Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt. I'm not going to do it because it's still early. And I really am a big fan of Anaruma. I think he can find a way, because I think they have space eaters inside on defense that can take on multiple blockers. I think Hill, I think that Reeder, I think these guys are capable of doing that. So we'll see where that all goes. I want to address one thing, because we have so many regular viewers and people in the chat, and Randy Gillespie is one of them. So he had made the comment that he asked a question earlier when my dad is on, and we never addressed it, talking about Andrew Abbott. And I know we're jumping all over the board here, but it's important for our regulars, I think, that we acknowledge what's on their mind. So he says, do we think that Andrew Abbott just does not have a go-to get-out pitch? Was he worn down by fatigue? He was ahead in a lot of counts and gave up a hit after that. I think Andrew Abbott has a chance to be one of the best 4 or 5 starters in a rotation, a great rotation, a World Series winning rotation, in my opinion. Not a division champ, not a division round champ, an LCS World Series contending team. Abbott would be your 4th or 5th starter on that team. He's solid, he's tough, he cares, his stuff is good enough to win. He's not overpowering. He's got a great changeup, which I love pitchers that have a great changeup. He has a better secondary pitch right now than Green does. Green throws 8,000 miles an hour. It's a reason why I like Williamson. He really grew on me as the year went on. Fastball, good fastball. good breaking ball, decent working on changeup. Now you're talking about 3 pitches. So I think Abbott, he got worn down a little bit this year, and that's the danger of babying these guys in the minor leagues. It comes back to bite teams every single year. And there's always an unexpected team in the hunt every single year. And they'll run into the same thing that the Reds ran into this year. Guy in your rotation, pitching great, and for a long time there, Abbott was the best starter they had in that rotation. Matter of fact, for the biggest chunk of time, he was the best starter they had in the rotation, right? Over an extended period of time. When he was on that run when he first came up, 11 starts, whatever it was. But you're running into, well, he only threw 120 innings last year. So we don't want to extend him more than 160 this year, right? Well, he should have thrown 150 last year. But you were watching his pitch count. You were doing this. You were doing that, whatever it might be. Okay. So, Randy, thank you. Hope we addressed your question. I think he did wear down at the end of the year.
I have a question, if that's okay.
Yes, please.
Trace put the poll question in. It was, would you go out and get a starting pitcher, a veteran arm? We have roughly about 6 to 7 guys now who are fighting, and this is current. We have 6 to 7 guys currently fighting for 5 spots of our starting rotation. Who are the guys that you think will be moved to the pen if they were to get a veteran starter? Who do you think's on the bottom of this? Because for me right now, it is probably Andrew Abbott and it's probably Brandon Williamson. One of the two would be shoved to the bullpen. Maybe Connor Phillips as well.
He's asking you, Tom.
Look, you'd have Hunter Green, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not putting Lodolo in there.
A lot of people have been saying Lodolo too.
I'm not putting him in. No, I'm saying I'm not putting him anywhere.
Oh, I see. Right
now. I can't count on him. And I'm not beating the kid down. I mean, that's a freak injury with his leg. And, they thought it was one thing, turns out to be another. I feel terrible for the kid. Because as far as just pure stuff of that entire group, I think Lodolo has the highest ceiling of any of them. Higher than Hunter Green, in my opinion. But you got to get on the mound. So, Lodolo's going to go out there and compete for a starting spot. Good Lord willing, he's healthy. So, if you want to say that's 2, fine. I'd say it's 2. I'm not saying he's 2, but that's fine. Then you have Williamson, right? You have Abbott. There's 4. Who else you talking about here?
So you have Graham.
If you have Green and Ashcraft, 5.
Ashcraft.
Yeah.
And then you have Connor Phillips in the wings.
No.
Connor Phillips not ready.
You can't. This is where Reds fandom sometimes, I think, loses sight of the big picture. Just because they overachieved last year, and let me say something else that's kind of shocking that I just thought of a second ago. Every time you bring up one of the young Reds players, the ones that maybe you didn't know about before the season started or you weren't relying on, every single one of them at some point in this season was a big reason, not just a small reason, but a big reason as to why the Reds played meaningful baseball until the last week. Every one of them. You can go through the entire list and say, well, Will Benson came up for a month and was red hot and gave this team something they desperately needed. Andrew Abbott came up and for a month and a half when there was nobody there was literally the only pitcher in the rotation you thought you had a chance when he was taking the ball that night. The only guys on this team, might I remind everybody, that you genuinely could say you were disappointed in or were a huge disappointment when the season was over was every single one of the guys that we all touted before the season started as one of their better players and or someone that we could rely on. It was Hunter Green, it was Nick Lodolo, it was Graham Ashcraft, it was Jonathan India, it was Tyler Stevenson. Those 5 guys in and of themselves were all, I'm not saying they were terrible, but they were unreliable. However you want to deem it, whether it was their play that was unreliable or it was the fact that they couldn't stay on the field, it was unreliable. You're not going to go out and make headway moves on sending a guy like Connor Phillips to the bullpen, who, for all intents and purposes, on a good franchise or a team that actually had, a good farm system, would have never seen the big leagues this year because he's not ready. They threw him in there because no one could stay healthy, and it was literally the only option they had left, and they were still in what we would call playoff contention baseball. Then you add in the fact of Andrew Abbott, who's been a starter at Virginia, and he's thrown 150-plus innings. He's been reliable. The problem is, to your point, Tom, he's only been in the minor leagues for 2 years. Like, he's not even a guy that you should be relying on right now to throw 200-plus innings. The issue that the Reds have right now is something that was years ago an issue. This is not a this year issue. It was something 2 years ago you should be complaining about because they didn't have anybody that was worth a damn, that should be ready to come up and actually contribute. So the guys they have now, hopefully, if we can all say a little collective prayer, can continue to develop and get better. But I'm not going to give up, I guess, and I'm not suggesting that you're saying this or anyone else, but as a fan base, I would hope we're not going to give up on guys that have only had a year or two of service time.
You're right.
Andrew Abbott, for the question that Randy asked, does he have an out pitch? He had a lot of out pitches for 2 months. I mean, just because a guy doesn't strike a ton of guys out doesn't mean he's not effective. And I get what Randy was saying. Later in the year, he was having problems putting guys away. But that's a double-edged sword, Tom. There's a reason that some guys can only go 5 innings and they got 110 pitches because they either strike the guy out or they walk him.
That's right.
And they can't get guys out in the first 2 pitches of an at-bat. There's some effectiveness there that Andrew Abbott has that I would like to see play out before we shove him in the bullpen. I would, and I don't see your opinions, I would buy into the idea, like you said the other day, if Nick Lodolo has proven that he can't throw an extended period of time without getting hurt, then he's a guy that I wouldn't mind maybe trying to put in the bullpen, and you have your elite level left-handed reliever now that you don't have anywhere on the books right now. So those are just a couple thoughts that I have, but I caution all of us to say any of these young guys we need to do something with because they haven't proved their worth yet.
Well, no, I'm not saying they should be moved to the bullpen. I'm saying if you go out and get a veteran, they have to be moved to the bullpen. One of them has to go. You can't have a 7-man rotation. So, and my option is Abbott or Williamson because we're not going to have 3 lefty starters out there. I have a hard time believing that. So, if one of them were to move, I would pick the guy who has struggled with fatigue down the line. Abbott was going 3-4 innings the last several starts of the year. He was struggling with fatigue. Now, I would argue Lodolo could also go in there. Lodolo has been dealing with the injury thing, and I think keeping him to 1 inning every couple days, probably the better way to go. But I don't know. But my point is, one of them has to go. I doubt you're going to send these guys down to AAA. So that means you're keeping them up here, like Trey said. You're going to believe in these guys, but you give them reps in the bullpen. I don't think that's bad. It just has to happen if you're going to go out and get a veteran starter.
And look, the Reds. If you look at their best 2 closers over the last 10, 12 years, their best 2 closers wanted to be and came up originally as starting pitchers. And for one reason or another, they were moved to the bullpen. Chapman was brought up as a reliever because the Reds needed him down the stretch there in 2010 to get to the playoffs. They needed that hammer in the bullpen, so they brought him up. But remember, they went to 2 more spring trainings with Chapman, starting the season in spring training as a starting pitcher. That's what Chapman wanted to do. But because of need, they moved him to the bullpen. The rest is history. He might be a Hall of Famer. Maybe.
You know, Casey just asked a
question. And
question.
Raisel Iglesias. People forget. Iglesias looked like as good a candidate to be a great Red starting pitcher as anybody they've run out there from their own system in a long, long time. I mean, his first couple of starts, man, he was lights out. But to Elliott's point, he could not handle his arm. The workload as a starter was better suited to the bullpen, even though he wanted to be a starter, and he's gone on to have a hell of a career. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Trace.
No, I was going to say Casey sometimes brings perspective to things on accident, and he leaned over and was just like, is it against the rules to have 7 starters? And the reason that the answer to that would be they don't use 7 starters is because they want guys to kind of stay in rhythm. And, you know, usually a 4 days rest, you pitch on the 5th day is what, you know, these guys have come accustomed to. But there is something to be said about the idea that it's okay to have 7 starters going into the year and having some guys go down and actually do. I know, again, to your point, Tom, you don't love this, but if they're on pitch counts at AAA with the idea of knowing that you're going to maybe need Andrew Abbott or Williamson at some point during the season, because inevitably, as we found out this year, all 5 starters pitching 200-plus innings and not needing anybody to fill in holes at certain points is probably you have a better chance of going down here to the UDF and buying a lottery ticket and winning more than, call it $1,000 on the scratch off than you would 5 starters pitching all year long for the Reds. So I actually, to remind everyone, this isn't a situation of how are we going to get all these guys reps. It is a good point, though. I don't want to mess with any of these young guys and put them in the pen too early because, to your point, yes, you might think to yourself, it's great that Iglesias and or Chapman went to the bullpen and they were closers for the Reds, but you don't know what you had on the other side either. And the Reds have not had a frontline dominant ace in what I would say a relatively long time. They've had some good ones, yes. Castillo, you could argue, was that guy.
Cueto was an ace.
And Cueto, maybe you could say that he was an ace at his time. But again, they've and I guess I'll take that point back a little bit based off those two names. But point is,
but I know what you're saying.
I just don't
They
want
don't
to
have a
give up
Hall
on
of Fame
Andrew.
guy.
I don't want to give up on
Right.
Andrew Abbott, and I'm not saying you did either. But as a reminder, like it's just in general terms, I would rather just have him go to AAA and say, listen.
But let me ask you
Yes.
this: do you think that the majority of the fan base would agree with that? Do you
That's
think,
where I just
and
don't
again,
give a-
I'm not saying you have to be a part of the majority of the fan base.
Yeah.
I'm just saying if we come out at the beginning of the year and we say Nick Lodolo, Brandon Williamson, or Nick Lodolo, Brandon Williamson, or Andrew Abbott, if one of those three are starting the year in AAA because we don't have room or whatever you want to say, opposed to them just being on the bullpen, I think a lot of people are going to be upset about that. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's what's going to happen. So if I have to move some guys to the bullpen, and I know I can trust Andrew Abbott, I know I can trust Brandon Williamson, I know I can trust Nick Lodolo when he's healthy, I wouldn't hate seeing them in the bullpen opposed to a guy like Daniel Duarte or bullpen X. You know what I'm saying? An Alex Young type guy who was okay at times during the season.
I think you're right. And the Reds, and that's the beautiful thing about what you can get excited about this franchise about right now is that you can make the argument that there's other guys we don't know about that might be the starters down the line too. Rhett Lauder's a guy they took first overall, 7th overall pick, and was the closest to big league ready of any of the guys that got drafted at the top of the draft, is what many would say. And I know that Skeens is obviously going to be a part of that conversation as well. But you just don't know what you have until you get there. That's why they have spring training. I'm just not to the point yet where if you don't make the rotation out of spring training that you have to go to the bullpen just because there's a need there. I'd rather wait a little bit of time to see what you have.
Yeah, there's no right or wrong answer here. I mean, there really isn't. And the bottom line clearly is guys have to be healthy. Then you're able to look at the entire landscape. What's the makeup of your roster if you bring in the veteran starter or of your pitching staff specifically? Okay, what does that now look like as Elliot brought up originally? Somebody's got to be somewhere or somewhere else. Okay, well, who are your candidates now in spring training for those spots? Who's healthy enough to compete for those spots? Who's a dark horse? And that's why I hate making judgments during spring training. Spring training baseball is the biggest waste of time known to man. I understand why they do it. I understand why they have to do it to get ready for a season. I mean in terms of evaluation. That's what I'm talking about. It's a total waste of time. You're playing in an environment where the altitude is higher. You're at 1,200 feet there in Phoenix. Florida, not as much, clearly. You're dealing with weather situations, especially in Florida. You guys are given 1 inning, 2 innings, 3 innings, 4 and 5, maybe their last 2 starts at the end. How much evaluation are you able to really, truly make out of something like that? It's just like September. I never buy into the guy who hits 350 in September. Good for him. But I'm not. When he's facing minor league pitchers from half the other teams, if the rosters have expanded, that are coming up and pitching, hard to pick a lot of stock. All right, do we have a cherry on top?
Here's what we'll do for cherry on top, because we had one more segment to get through. We'll make it quick. So our cherry on top today will be my top 5. I think you're going to enjoy this one.
Oh, I love it. Okay, then let's roll the intro. Here we go. I said I was going to get this last night. I talked myself out of it because I put on a couple of pounds here lately. But I'm going tonight. Weight be damned.
You don't look like it, Tom. You don't look like
you.
you put on
I
a
look
pump.
like a scrawny wimp. I understand.
No,
that.
that's not what we were saying.
But that's how it's
You look
all
great,
about how
Tom.
you feel. You know, people can look at you and say, "Man, you look good," but it's how you feel. You know, you can get heavier but feel better sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Is that
All
the
right?
same
And-
big
and-
bone
and
theory?
If you're only a few pounds off, but you feel it. Been drinking a lot of beer. Stuff goes south.
White Claws too, huh?
Need to get you some Pawnee water, Tom.
All right, let's do this.
No, I need more beer.
Yeah, baby.
I'm doubling up.
All right, let's
High
do
life.
let's
Starting
do this.
tomorrow night.
All right, guys. So it is fall. It's the best time of the year in terms of weather, and for a lot of local areas, it's homecoming season. So today's top 5, we do this every Wednesday, Reed's top 5. Today's top 5 are the top 5 homecomings. So this is, people coming back together, people come, whatever. Top 5 homecomings. We'll start it off with one of the most obvious one, and that's Michael Jordan returning to the Bulls. Listen, he retired, he came back, he won 3 championships. Had to put it on the list. It's not that exciting, but it did happen. That's coming in at number 5. Number 4 on this top 5 list of homecomings listen, I'm going to put on my Nostradamus hat for a second, and I'm going to predict something. It's Joey Votto returning for a $20 million option next year. He's going to win MVP.
Oh, my God.
The Reds are going to win the World Series, and it's going to be the greatest year that you guys have
I
ever
hope you're
had
right.
in Reds fandom.
I hope you're right.
That's number 4. That's not something that has happened. That's something that will happen.
Okay.
Go ahead and book it. Now, number 3. Listen, we don't like to get political on this show. We don't like to.
Well, it all depends on who you're talking about. Go ahead.
Correct. The third best homecoming is Hillary Clinton returning to Bill after the Monica Lewinsky scandal.
Oh, my
This
God.
isn't a political.
You have
this,
got
that's
to be
Tom,
kidding me.
Tom,
You've
Tom,
got to be kidding
Tom,
me.
Tom. This isn't
Trace,
about
are you kidding?
politics. This isn't about politics. This is about love, Tom. This
True
is about
love.
true love. And there's nothing greater in this world than when two people love each other.
I agree.
Like Bill and Hillary do. And Hillary came back to her man.
Oh.
She stood by her man.
Stand by your man.
Yes. And that's why it's number 3. Number 2.
I can't believe that made this list. Go ahead.
That's number 3. The number 2 greatest homecoming in the history of mankind is Jesus returning from the dead.
That's number 2?
Number 2.
I mean, my
Number two,
Lord, you
Tom.
have got to be kidding me.
Number
This
2.
segment is dead after today. Go ahead. What's number 1? What's
It was-
ahead? Anything ahead of this is just it's
Correct.
sacrilegious.
The segment
Right,
was
Elliot?
dead, but just like Jesus, it will rise because Off the Bench had a return of Thom Brennaman. Let's say, Tom,
Sacrilegious.
everyone, round of applause for
Sacrilegious.
Tom.
I don't want that. I don't want that award. No,
Yes.
No.
Better
no,
than Jesus.
No.
Better than
Jesus.
Tom Brennaman.
No.
Better
This
than
is
Jesus.
this is wow.
We'll print out the T-shirts. Tom better than Jesus.
Oh, golly.
Right there. That's why you watch off the
Where
bench.
did my career go?
That top 5 list right there is why you watch off the bench. I mean, that's what you do. Where else are you going to get this type of content? We just got serious for a minute. We were talking Reds baseball. We got serious about the NFL. Marty comes on. Reed trolls Marty, which is
I can't believe I did that.
just an absurd thing that happens.
believe I did
And then on top of that, you get to a top 5 list in the show. You think that at the very beginning, of course, it always starts off real nice, Tom. It starts off with a real serious one. Top 5. Michael Jordan come back to the Bulls. And then it gets a little more quirky as we get to number 1. And that's why I love that top 5 list. Because you got to get it to get it.
Okay. All right. Reed, well done.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah,
I'm happy
absolutely.
you're back.
Lord, I'm very sorry for those in this room. Okay.
I needed all the help I could get yesterday.
There's no doubt. Oh God, some of you in the chat. Oh, good
Yeah, baby.
Lord. Oh my gosh.
Mouse Cop wants to burn me at the stake, and maybe I should.
There's
I'm
no
sure
doubt.
I'll burn someday.
No,
I'm sure I'll burn
no
someday.
doubt. So tomorrow, obviously we got some baseball playoffs to talk about. We're getting closer to the Bengals game. We have a Thursday night game. What is a Thursday night game this week?
It is the Chiefs
Broncos.
and Broncos.
Oh boy.
AFC West.
Real doozy.
Oh,
The Broncos ruin every primetime game there is known to
They
man.
won
They
like
don't
8
stop giving it
times
to
last
them.
year.
Sean Payton's a fraud.
It's crazy how they keep getting these primetime games.
Oh my God.
Although they've played the Chiefs kind of close last couple times.
That's all that really
There's
matters.
some
in the
dollars,
NFL.
there's some
That's what I love
solace.
about you, Casey. You never know. You never know.
Never know.
Last time the Broncos beat the Chiefs was in 2015.
But
So
it's been
you
close.
kind of do know.
Fun fact.
Well, the good news, we have to do draft or die tomorrow, Tom. That's a new segment. I don't even
What
know
is
if you
it?
know about that.
Draft or die?
Yeah.
Draft or
Oh,
die,
love
Tom.
that.
Got to do it tomorrow. Which
If you don't draft, you die.
we have to do that segment tomorrow, but considering that one of them is one that many people are going to pick, considering the Broncos are playing the Chiefs.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, thanks to everybody. Casey, Trace, good to have you back. Glad you're safe and sound.
We've
Reed.
got a treat for our viewers, Tom.
What's that?
We're doing box lunch.
Yeah. I knew that. Elliot, thank you, by the way. So box lunch is coming up right now. FOC, as they like to say, right? Free of charge.
Correct.
That's right.
Okay.
Love that.
All right. And all 4 of you are partaking in this today?
Sounds like it.
Yep. We had a full,
Welcome back,
full
Trace.
pre-show meeting.
We had a full meeting about it.
Full pre-show meeting.
Okay. All right. Well, they're going to cover many, many topics.
Many.
And as I leave, my guy Trace, we didn't get to this topic today, but I wanted to get into it. We'll get into it maybe tomorrow once it's handed down. Is today Armageddon for Kansas basketball? 5 level 1 sanctions against Bill Self and the program. NCAA allegedly handing down a verdict today.
I hope they don't get anything.
All right, I know you do. All right, to everybody here at Off the Bench, thank you so much for joining us. We're back tomorrow, good Lord willing, at 10. And it is time now. We still got the big league intro to this.
Well, let me just start this off by saying that I'm going to try just something kind of new, just so that we know in the future how this works.
Here we go.
I'm going
On the
to
fly.
I'm going in this stream. It's going to redirect you to the next stream. Okay.
All right.
All right.
We'll see if
So,
it works.
We'll see if it works. So
Yes.
it's going to fade to black, and then it's going to send you to the next stream.
Okay, so here we go. Time for box lunch. Here we go.
Let's go.